In this video, I'm going to show you my experience with the squash vine borer moth and the squash vine borer caterpillar itself, which is what does all the damage to your plants. This isn't really an instructional video, it's more of a this is what I'm trying to fix the problem video. So if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section. So this is one of the bush butternuts, and I'm looking at the stalk of that, and you can see, if you look right in the center of that stalk, you can see that is squash vine borer poop coming out of the stalk of that plant. So what I'm going to do is put my jackknife in there and try to get that borer out of there and see if we can save this plant. To be honest, I've never been able to save one in the past, but I'm going to try. I have to use my knife, so I'm going to need my hands for this, so I can't really show it on video, but you can see the damage it did. Unfortunately, it looks like I was too late, and what happens is the grub comes out of there, and I think they bury themselves in the ground and they go dormant until next season or something of that nature. But you know, I don't know what's going to happen with this plant. I doubt it'll produce anything. I'll probably just plant something else in this spot. So yeah, that's what it looks like when a squash vine borer goes inside the stalk of one of your squash plants. And even though this is a Cucurbita machata, it was able to get in there and basically destroy the plant. We'll see. I'll decide what I'm going to do with this. I probably am just going to plant another seed here. I think I might still have time to grow something else. If you look at that little stem right there, that looks like a squash vine borer might have gotten in there too. So that's what the little branch that I pulled off of it looks like. You can see the worm poop and destruction that it did already, even at that small of a size. I've gone to the plant that was right next to that, and I saw the worm poop and the rot, and there's I dug it out of there. There's the worm. It's dead now, but you can see what it did to the stalk of the plant. Probably destroyed. And I see other eggs on this plant too, so even though this is a butternut, it still got them. I was paying so close attention to the Blue Hubbard, the plant next to it, the Burgess Buttercup, got attacked by vine borers. So they destroyed the plant. I did pull the worm out of there and killed it without, I should have taken a picture. This is a good example of what you find if you really look close on your squash plants. Like this was a flower that was wilted, so I ripped it open and you can see the squash vine borer right there. You know, they're not smart enough to always lay their eggs at the base of the plant. Sometimes they're at the branches that are further away. So anyway, I just wanted to show that. Right at the end of my thumbnail, there's a little black dot there. That's the head of the borer. And on my finger right there, on my finger is a squash vine borer egg. That just happened to come off of my finger, or come off the plant while I was picking this leaf off. But you can see this leaf here is the remnant of you can see where the borer was eating the inside of the stalk of that leaf. And now there it is. It's right there. Like I said, that's really small. I mean, it's probably only 1 millimeter or 2 long. So if you watch closely, you can see it's moving around. So it's not going to be moving around for long though. Okay, so another example, squash vine borer. How do you find them? Oh, that's how you find them. You look for damage and then you try to get it before they kill your plant. So here's another example of ways that you can find the squash vine borers. Don't get distracted by that tiny cantaloupe there. This leaf right here, look how wilted it is, and like why, like you look on the stem looks fine, but then if you look right here where the leaf meets the stem, see that right there? I'm pretty confident there's a squash vine borer in there. And so I'm going to open that up right now, and I'm going to find them. So why else would this leaf be wilted like that when the rest of the plant looks fine? This is the rest of the plant. This one's got a big old squash on it. That squash right there is like 8 inches long. And so is that one over there. So they're growing really fast. And this is the one that I pollinated the other day that was kind of in the middle of the bed and 2 feet off the ground. So that one's definitely growing. And there's another one here somewhere. But anyway, let me get back to what I was trying to show you. So, so yeah, I opened that up and try to get this to focus. You can see the poop from the worm, and there's a worm right there. Right where you can see the yellowish stuff, that's the worm poop, but the worm is right in the center of the screen right now. It's a kind of a translucent white, and I'd say it's about 1/4 inch long. Let me see if I can get close enough to really focus in on it. Let me zoom in, hold on a minute. And there's that worm right there, you can see it. So this is, this one wouldn't have killed the plant, I don't think, but it's still eating, and it's not going to be, because I'm going to smush him here in a minute. But that's the squash vine borer. You can see the little black head, and that's where his mouth parts are, eating that stem away. So, if these get down into the base of the plant, they eat the main stalk, and then your plant just falls over and dies. I'm trying to, anyway, that's about it on that. You can see them, and that's how you find them. You look for the wilted leaves and flowers, and you'll be able to find these things if you branch off of that plant right there, which is it's got some squash on it. But this branch came off the main stem right down by the base where you see it's getting watered down there. And looks like it's got squash vine borer damage on it to me. So again, I'm going to go in there and see what I find. This one's probably a little bigger than the other ones we've seen. Sure enough, there it is. Yeah, you don't have to look hard to see that one. Probably 3/4 inch long. So yeah, I don't know if it would have been able to get all the way down into the base of the plant, but it definitely destroyed this runner that was coming off of it. So anyway, there you go. There's a little bit bigger one, and they get a lot bigger than that too. I was surprised to see that these butternut squash that are bush variety got damaged by squash vine borers. The thing is, they say they're resistant to it, but what I find is like it may not kill the plant. So I guess they call that resistant to it, but it does damage the plant, and in my experience prevents it from fruiting. So this plant here, I went in, this is the one in the video, and I went in, there's an earwig right there, crush him. Anyway, I guess I didn't tape that good enough, but I went back and taped it with some masking tape to try to allow that stalk to heal, and hopefully that works. I don't know if it will or not. Did the same thing on this one. These two plants, these two bush variety of butternut squash got damaged pretty badly, and so did that. That's the Hubbard over there that I cut open that I wasn't sure if it had one in it or not, and I never did find one, but it might have already emerged because it was a lot of damage in there. So yeah, I taped that up too. So these three are taped up, and Okay, so here's another example of what I think is a squash vine borer. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tear into it here inside so we can really see what we're looking at with the camera on a tripod. I went out tonight in one of the Jarrahdale pumpkins. The plant looked great except for one spot. You can see right there where the leaf intersection is. I guess maybe they like that area because that's where I picked that other one out of earlier today. But anyway, let's dissect it and see what we find. Need to put it on a cutting surface so that I don't damage the tablecloth. So this is where the mark is right here, where looks like it either went in there or in the back. You can see kind of a discolored area on the stem there where it joins the leaf. So I'm gonna cut it open. Could be down in here too, so I'm gonna cut it all away and open it up and see what we find in there. There it is. So there's you can see the squash vine borer right there. That's the larva for the squash vine borer, and he's still alive, moving around. He's been in there chowing down, and so he had his last meal. This is his last meal. So again, this is how you find them. You look for the wilted leaves, the damage, the poop, kind of, that yellow stuff there is digested plant matter that this worm ate. And so anyway, I won't have you watch me kill it, but like I said, he's had his last meal, and there's just another example. That's what they look like. That one there is probably maybe a little over 1/4 of an inch long. Anyway, okay. So I just wanted to show that. I saw that. I'm going to try to show these, and kind of try to help everybody identify these things. Well, the video I made where I was showing how I taped up the squash plants was about 2 or 3 days ago. And this is the Hubbard squash, and I had to get in there and dig around today, and because I saw that right there, there was a squash vine borer in there, and then in the bottom I pulled it, I split it, and there was like 3 or 4 of them in there, so it was unsavable. This is, what it looks like now. There's ants in there eating everything, eating the dead squash vine borers. That's a dead squash vine borer right there. But anyway, I had to go do something, so I didn't get this video taken right when I was doing it. But I took the tape off, and that's the Hubbard squash, and it's toast. So you can see, obviously it's wilted now, but I wanted to show you that yeah, the whole trick with the tape didn't work. So that's all that she wrote. So that there was a Burgess buttercup squash right over there. I don't know if you can see that in the picture or not, but that's the dried up stem. And then now this one, so those two are goners. And these two butternut bush varieties that I taped up are still alive. They're really wilty because it's in the 90s out right now, but that's probably normal. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with these. But I just wanted to update on that because, I was talking about, well, is this going to work? Well, it didn't work on that plant because that plant's a goner. Now, these two plants here are Jarrahdale pumpkins. This is, I believe it's a New Zealand variety, and also they grow a lot of these in Australia. What they are is They're like a green, like an almost an army green pumpkin, and they have a really nice yellow orange flesh. Are supposed to be delicious. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because one of the things I'm trying to do here is bury the stems of the plant so that they root in along the stem. And if you can get them to root in, and a squash vine borer gets in there and kills the base of the plant, then the plant can continue to grow. That said, if you have that kind of damage on a plant, it's never going to be the same. It's never going to fulfill its genetic destiny as well as it would have if that hadn't happened. But it's a way to try to get around it. If you have squash vine borers in your area, then that's something that I learned watching James Prigioni on, I forget the name of his channel, but he's from New Jersey and he grows a food forest in his backyard, and it's pretty nice. But anyway, that's what I'm doing with these plants. I'm piling up dirt on the stems around the nodes and trying to get it to them to root in, so that if they do, and they are susceptible to squash vine borers because they're the Cucurbita maxima, which is probably the most susceptible of all the different varieties of squash, which pumpkins are squash. So anyway, I think they just call them pumpkins because they're bigger than normal squash that you expect. So anyway, that's what I'm doing here. That's just a preventative measure. It's just one of the things that, is talked about online, and it's one of the things you might want to try doing if you have a problem with squash vine borers. And if you do have a problem with squash vine borers, tell me in the comments and mention where you're from, because I'm curious about what parts of the country have them and what parts don't. The other Hubbard squash, it actually looks really good, but I probably pulled 10 or 15 squash vine borer eggs off of this thing this morning. And so the squash vine borer moths are still out here. I guess technically it's still mid-July, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. I would like to grow a Hubbard squash and see what that's like. But anyway, yeah, the moths are out here laying their eggs, so it's probably just a matter of time before one of them destroys the plant. That's not squash vine borer eggs, but if I can find one here, I'll show you what the eggs look like. I picked them, I looked at it very carefully this morning and tried to pick them all off. And yeah, there was a borer in there too, and I dug that one out of there. I've got to tape that up. So that one would have went down and, destroyed this plant. And there might, no telling, there might be other ones in there right now. So, it's a losing battle I've been fighting. They're winning. And so I'll keep updating on this, and then obviously I'm going to have to figure out a new strategy for growing squash. So there's a few different things that I've seen videos about and read about that you can do to get rid of these terrible creatures that are destroying our squash plants. And the first and best one that you could do probably is get a squash vine borer trap and trap them before they lay the eggs on your plants. And then you don't have to worry about fixing things after it's a problem. Um, I would caution you not to use sticky traps in your garden, because if you do that, you're going to be killing bees and all other kinds of bugs that you want in there, like ladybugs and stuff like that. So don't do that. The second thing I would say is uh, remove the eggs once you see the eggs on there. And you're going to have to be really diligent about this, because squash plants sprawl all over the place. But mainly you want to check near the base of the plant. And check for the little brown round eggs, and if you see them, just scrape them off with your fingernail and squish them. And so that obviously haven't had good success with that, as you can see from the video. The next thing is once you see the damage, the worm poop on your stalks of your plants, dig them out of there and kill the squash vine borer worm, and then maybe tape it up, or that's what I've tried, is to tape it up. I don't know any other methods to keep the other damaging insects out of the inside of your plant, because you'll get earwigs and everything else and pill bugs and stuff like that in there that will start eating the dead material in your plants. Next, I'd say grow varieties that either they don't like or that are resistant to them. And that would be the hard stemmed varieties like butternut squash, which there's about 4 different varieties, maybe more than that, of butternut squash. And then there's Seminole pumpkins, which are probably, from what I've read, I don't have experience with these, but probably the most resistant of all of the varieties of squash that I know of, that of squash vine borer worms. And then the next thing you can do is, as your plants, pumpkins or squash, are growing, if they're growing along the ground, bury the stems so that they root in along the stem. And that way, if the main stalk where it goes into the ground gets destroyed, the squash or pumpkin itself will keep on growing because it's got a source of nutrients and water. You can't do that the way I'm growing some of my varieties, because I'm growing them upright on trellises and there's only one place for them to root into the ground. So, in summary, the reason why squash vine borers are so successful and such a nuisance is because you can't see them. They get inside the plant and you can't tell that they're there until the damage has already been done. And it's the same thing with the predators, that, birds will eat other worms and aphids and stuff like that that get onto your plants, because they can see them and they're on the outside of the plant. But the squash vine borer is protected by the plant that it's actually trying to kill. So I hope this helped a little bit. I hope it doesn't make you give up. I'm going to keep trying to grow squash because I like squash and I like the things that I can make out of squash. So we're going to keep trying. And the method that we're working on now is planting them later in the season when supposedly the moths aren't active. So far, that's just an experiment for me, and I'll let you know how that goes in the future. Like, subscribe, share the video, and we'll see you in the next one. If you want more information about how to deal with squash vine borers, go to Epic Gardening, and they have a website and a YouTube channel, and they do some education on there about how to mitigate some of the problems that you have in your garden. I'll try to find a URL and put that in the description or in the comment section.